Hi, everyone. My name is Robin Elander, Interim Executive Director for the Downtown Santa Barbara organization. I'm so excited to be here for our next Downtown Business Spotlight with Santa Barbara Independent, Matt Kettmann, and our business owners, Brandon Ristaino and Drew Cuddy. This Downtown Business Spotlight is designated as an opportunity for us to celebrate the contributions of our downtown business owners. So thank you for joining us, and I'll let Matt take it away.
Great, thank you, Robin. Yeah, as Robin said, this is a partnership between Santa Barbara Downtown Organization and the Santa Barbara Independent, trying to help shine a light on downtown businesses in a very weird and tough time. So we're hoping that it's sending some of these viewers to frequent these businesses and get out downtown in a safe way. And today we have a really cool conversation because it's about a type of business that has arguably been more affected than probably any other type of consumer-facing business during this time, which is bars. And we have Drew Cuddy from Satellite SB Wine Bar. They were lucky in the sense that they did serve food. They do serve food, so they kind of had a leg up. But the wine has always been right up there with in the front of the place. And then we have Brandon, who is the mogul behind the Good Lion hospitality empire, which includes the Good Lion, which opened in November of 2014, and the test pilot was fall of 2016. Shaker Mill, which opened down there on State Street in April of 2019, and then Venus and Furs, which is actually a new spot. Not only is he hanging in there, but he's actually expanding some of what he's doing. So he's opened a new wine bar food concept on Coda Street where Middle Child was. We used to call that place Restaurant Row. I don't know if it still has that name or not. And then just to get back to when Drew opened Satellite, I think it was June of 2017, in the what was then called the Impact Hub. Now I believe it's the Kiva co-working space, but right there on State Street as well. So these guys are going to give us some great perspective on bars and that whole part of the industry, which has been subject to very different rules than restaurants. And so we're going to learn a little bit about that. I have thought when we first started talking about these sessions, there was an idea of maybe encouraging people to buy stuff in advance from each of these places. And I wish we'd done that today with you guys, because then we'd be drinking a cocktail right now and have some wine on the side, but maybe next time. So I don't know, let's just jump in. Brandon, tell us, I mean, you have a little bit more time on the street, on State Street here than Drew. So why don't we talk about your background and how you decided to open bars in Santa Barbara and how that's grown. And then we can get into COVID a little bit later.
Sure. Thanks for the intro. Thanks for having me. Good to see everybody. My wife and I moved here in fall of 2014. That was after 10 years of primarily cocktail bar operations in Los Angeles. And now I'm at my 23rd year, believe it or not, in hospitality. And our goal was to move here. We were coming up here on little getaways here and there, little anniversary trips, and fell in love with the city and were ready for a change, and really just swindled our way into the Good Lion Bar because I was a working bartender and bar manager, didn't have any real money, and didn't come from a lot of wealth. And so I say swindle, it's a long, fun story, best told off Zoom, but just kind of talked our way into it, raised some money from some.
And that was a Marquee Bar for a short spell before that, right?
It was, yeah. It was Marquee Bar, and then kind of hit the market. And we were in the right place at the right time. We got really lucky, frankly, and thankfully we've been successful since day one, and that success has led us to open the other venues that you mentioned.
And your timing was perfect too. It kind of, Good Lion opened, and we obviously, bars are a huge part of Santa Barbara, have been forever as far as I can tell, especially State Street. But you opened at a time when there was this whole new resurgence or start of this craft cocktail scene that was kind of coming out of the big cities. We were a little behind on that front, and you kind of came in and nailed it. And we actually, just amongst friends, we would call your place the Mustache Bar, because like everyone had the cool hipster mustaches.
Yeah.
And but you could also go in there and all of a sudden having this deep conversation about vermouth, at 1 a.m. And it was just, I think, really cool experience. So that did well, and then you started to expand. So tell us about that.
Yeah, well, quietly, that was our plan from day one. I think if we would have said that plan to anybody, they would have thought we were crazy because, again, we were just hustling our way through it. But we had, we're creative people. As much as I love the operational side of what we do, I love the design and the conceptual work and creating new cocktails. And so I always wanted to do something that was inspired by the world of tropical cocktails and tiki. And so we were lucky to make that happen. And I grew up in southern Florida and Miami, and grew up around daiquiris and Cuban sandwiches and Cuban jazz, and that's in my DNA too. So we were lucky to have that kind of unfold too. Really, it's just been a lot of luck, a lot of hard work, and really the support of the community that's enabled us to keep opening stuff. And then, as you mentioned, we opened kind of a wine and wine cocktail based venue, Venus and Furs, which we're excited about. And believe it or not, later this year, we're opening a project down in Ventura, which is a cocktail bar and Italian eatery. Great timing on those last two openings, unfortunately, but we were planning on doing this for a while, so here we are.
Right. And then just to kind of dial in, I mean, you have Test Pilot, which is a tiki-ish bar, but kind of modernized, and then you have Shaker Mill, which is those kind of more island drinks too. So how do you differentiate those when you're explaining them to people?
Yeah, well, we don't use the word tiki that much anymore, where you're tropically or island inspired.
Oh, right, yeah.
But what honestly, what I'm more inspired about rather than the culture, what we were more inspired about rather than the culture of tiki is the cocktails. I'm just a huge fan of that work from the 1930s and 1940s. And I would argue that the cocktail DNA is quite different from tiki-inspired, tropically inspired cocktails rather than Cuban-inspired. Cuban-inspired is almost like Parisian, London, New York City style cocktails that just happen to be happening during Prohibition years in Havana, and as a result, likely of the Prohibition in Havana. And then tiki kind of was created by a guy named Don Beachcomber. And one is more classic, I would say, Cuban style, and one is more just completely fantastical layers of flavors and a lot of fruit, a lot of tropical fruit and rum.
Right. Awesome. And Venus and Furs basically just opened, right?
Yeah, we're grand opening tomorrow night, and we've kind of done a little soft opening. The soft open is longer than expected because everything is taking longer to get delivered as far as furniture and so on due to COVID. Things are getting hung up at ports and various ways you can imagine it, it's happening. And so we pushed the grand opening a little bit, but we're opening properly tomorrow night.
Okay, great. Let's go to you, Drew, and then we'll come back to Brandon. We'll talk with each of you guys in succession about what you're doing about COVID as far as service goes, as well as policies. But Drew, tell us about Satellite. What do you guys do there? What's a little bit of your background? Why you decided to open a wine bar on State Street, and how that's been going up until the pandemic?
Yeah. A simple Canadian farm boy. I was raised in Southern Ontario in Canada and moved to California, fortunately, right when I started high school. So I sort of had this like Southern California beach and big cities, and grew up on a farm, and have always really felt attached to the farm world, and got into wine when my dad started importing it when I was in high school. So it's been a professional career for me since I was about 17. But yeah, started Satellite in 2017 with Emma West, who came from Julienne. And so our sort of strengths together are really wines that focus on farming and purity, expressions of the vineyard in a natural way. Sort of the lens we talk about wine is in the natural world. And then all of our food is farmers market vegetarian and really focused on Santa Barbara's local producers and pretty much all of our fresh produce.
Did we lose we might have lost your audio there, Drew.
Uh-oh.
I can switch to, okay, one second. These air.
Can you hear me now?
Much better.
There you go.
All right. So just to reiterate real quick, so we're really focused on being a natural wine shop and wine bar with a fully farmers market vegetarian program. And I don't know if you heard, but opened the restaurant with Emma West, who is formerly of the very popular Julienne restaurant, which closed back in 2015. and elements of that really live on through our vegan and vegetarian cuisine. And
your timing was kind of impeccable too when it comes, we're talking about this natural wine scene. I'm not sure how wine savvy our viewers are, but natural wine is become this big movement. It's kind of become so big that it doesn't necessarily mean anything anymore, but it tends to focus on sustainably farmed, really unmanipulated wines. But you kind of opened that, again, Santa Barbara didn't really have that really happening in 17. And you kind of hit that timing right. And so, all of the kind of natural wine fans were lining up at Satellite. And so that timing went pretty well and seemed like you guys you were thriving. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the last, I always tell people, like, the last thing I'd ever recommend you do is open a restaurant in your life, but it's been a pretty awesome experience having one that's popular and doing something that we all really believe in.
Right.
So that's been the most rewarding thing.
So
it's nice to see that Santa Barbara's really adapting to what we do and really loving it.
Right. And so while we're talking to you, tell us the pandemic comes up in mid-March, you got to figure something out. So what'd you do? What was your plan? And how are you
I was on
operating?
vacation that Sunday and flew home that Monday. And on Tuesday, we started a new restaurant. We basically had to go down to just Emma and myself. And for the next 3 months until Memorial Day, it was just, we did a program that was a complete 180 from what we were doing. So we were doing full a la carte every day, noon to 10, 6 days a week, and a Sunday short shift. And that went to just Emma and I coming in at 9 a.m., deciding what we wanted to cook for the meal that day. I converted our whole shop to online overnight, got everything photographed, priced, put on our Squarespace site. And Emma would come in and put together about 20 to 30 portions of a prefix $25 meal that was delivered at 5:30 every night. And my job and my goal was to make sure it got to everybody within 2 hours of being cooked. So it was a intense few months there. It was incredibly
and how did it
jarring, rattling.
Did you feel successful and proud of what you guys were putting out and people were supporting you?
Yeah, it was awesome. If you hit our Instagram, there's a couple pictures of what we were putting together, and it was sort of like constantly, I was amazed at what she was able to do out of the kitchen, and I was amazed that I was actually able to route myself around town and get everything to everyone, and with very few errors, having been brand new. Like, it felt like a brand new business all over again on March 17th.
In some ways, you were also somewhat prepared in the sense that you guys have a pretty small kitchen. You're confined in what you can do with the food anyway. Exactly. So you're already making delicious food, but you weren't using crazy equipment.
We don't have a hood. We don't use gas. We don't have a grease trap. We do, everything's just like fresh and minimally manipulated to really just like show off.
And I bet that that kind of food can travel pretty well too if you put the dressing on the side or whatever.
Matt, we did a prefix 6-course dinner last night and the power died. Our first seating was at 5:30. The power died at 5:45. Our last seating was at 7:30 and the power came on at 8:45. So when it was bringing out the last dessert, the power came back, and we did the full prefix dinner with nothing but headlamps and Coleman stoves in the back. It was adaptation like on the fly. So yeah, we have a really adaptable team, especially Emma is sort of the base of that. She can take a kitchen with a fork in it and make a 5-course meal. So
right.
Yeah. And then fortunately it's about the ingredients. It's the main thing for us.
Yeah. So when you remind me of the time in my mind has kind of gone mishmash over COVID. So you guys had to close for when were you allowed to reopen, I guess is my question.
So the Friday of Memorial Day, which I guess would have been at the end of May, like the 29th.
That's right. Okay. And so what did you guys do then?
So we saw that Friday night, the city brought out the palm trees and just started shutting down the whole street. We thought it was only going to be 2 blocks. We thought it was going to be your block, Brandon, and then the 500 block. And then they just shut down everything. Didn't tell us until Saturday morning. And then Nina from the city, assistant city administrator, came by and she's like, "You guys can open on the street." And I was like, "What?" Like, thanks for the notice. So we pulled out a few tables and chairs and took the thing that everyone sees at Satellite right under our main window is that big square that's just a pull away 3 set of doors with a big bar. So we turned that from seating into a service spot, and we've been playing for a few months. We finally have a really good flow, but we just tried to figure out how to keep people walking by separated from the people ordering and separated from the people dining. We just adapted to it and on the fly and started bringing our team back in, and it's been hectic. The biggest thing is that everything happening right now just requires adaptation, and that takes energy and a lot of thought, and you just hope you do it right, and if you don't, you just redo it. And that's, I'm sure that's what
how's it going generally? Pretty well?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, as good as it can be. Again, don't open a restaurant. But if you do, we're fortunate to be in the position that we're in, which is that we've got a really, really strong community around us. The vegetarian community and vegan community are super important to us, as well as the natural wine community, and just people who love the farmers market and want to eat local. I mean, that's the core of what we do, and we get a lot of people coming out for that, and that's the biggest gift of all. It's so nice to be able to support that demand. Yeah,
great. Well, speaking of not opening restaurants, Brandon just opened another one. But so tell us, with your, you had a little different scramble because you, other than Shaker Mill, which is teamed with Cubanero and Could Serve Food, I mean, Test Pilot and Good Lion were just out of luck right from the beginning of the shutdown onward. So tell us how that all rolled out.
Yeah, well, first of all, Drew, I feel hearing that brings me back to that time, which was only 6 months ago. So yeah, we should have hung out and had a glass of wine back then. And not that we had time for it, but it was brutal. It was brutal, as Drew mentioned. Adaptation. We were in full reactionary mode. All of our venues were forced to close for 66 days. I remember exactly how many days. And then the Memorial Day weekend, we scrambled last minute, kind of. Adaptation to get open, and 2 of our venues have a type of liquor license that doesn't require us to serve food, and as a result, we were kind of pushed to the very bottom tier of types of businesses that are allowed to reopen, and we're still kind of in the trenches trying to get those restrictions loosened for what we do. But essentially, Good Lion and Test Pilot, 2 venues that have never served food, are forced now to serve food effectively as a sit-down restaurant, and so we've been doing that since Memorial Day weekend, different vendors, but for the most part at the Good Lion, we've been working with our buddies at Sama Sama, who are always great to work with and always producing excellent food. And then we've worked with different vendors down at Test Pilot from the project to our friends with Barbarinho and other folks to do what we have to do to stay open.
And what's the actual rule for people who haven't been out? You have to order. Can I order like 3 drinks and a bag of chips, or
no? It's as Drew can probably attest, a lot of everything we're receiving, while incredibly important and well attentioned, can be gray and a little hazy. What we know is that we have to operate as a bona fide restaurant, and so take that for what it means. We're serving substantial food. When you walk up to one of our cocktail bars, where normally you'd cram in, well, in good days you'd cram in there, and right now it's host only. You can only order directly from your table, which are all spaced, of course, over 6 feet apart, and through a server. No interactions directly with the bartender, and you have to eat something bona fide while you drink.
And you have to stay seated too, right?
Yeah.
And stay seated.
Oh, you have to stay seated at all times. There's no mingling, no hang. The only thing you can do is stand up to use the restroom and mask up when you do so, of course.
Yeah. And do you have internal policies, like what they should be eating, or like what accounts? I mean, there's no hard rules. It has to be half your check or anything, right?
No, there's no rules about the monetary value, and you could order something that's substantial but relatively inexpensive. So for us, we want to make sure we're compliant. We want to make sure our team and our guests are safe. And past that, we do as best as we can to stay in compliance. But, you know, at some point, and maybe Drew can agree that we'll look back at this and be able to laugh about it maybe a little bit, but certainly not now, and certainly not the last 7 months. And the food is an incredible headache for us. The people we're working with are awesome, but those businesses were not set up as restaurants. So we're constantly getting thrashed out there, but we're doing it.
You're doing a good job.
Well, thank you.
You are, absolutely.
It's our team. They're guys and girls out there. They're dealing with a lot, and they're doing an incredible job.
And what's the climate of guests you're getting? I mean, are most people, and this is for both of you guys, whoever wants to chime in, are most people pretty respectful of the rules and not, you know, whining too much, or do you get some resistance?
It might be different for Drew, but for us, you know, 95% of the people, they understand what's going on here, and they're cool and they're supportive.
Yeah, most people are really good, and a lot of people, you know, will, especially after you've been holed up at your house like for 6 months, we get a lot of people who just like either have forgotten their manners or have forgotten how to sort of be around people, and so like there's that element, and then you do get some people who are just like violently verbal and just not cool, and it's super weird, and it's so upsetting, especially like on a Sunday morning where like it's just nice out and everybody's hanging, and then you get people down your throat about, could you please just put our mask at the window? It's just what we're trying. Like we just
want to sell you a spritz, and a salad. You know?
Exactly. Like, hey, I'm gonna make you the spritz. Just let it happen.
So where are we at? And Brandon, I know you both probably are, but I know Brandon has been very up on city policy, state policies, all that. Where are we right now when it comes to bars? I know there's the tier, well, you tell us, there's the tier system and all that, and it sounds like there might be some decisions coming this coming week, right?
Yeah, and without whinging too much, you know, we cocktail bar operators are in a pretty small minority. We don't have any lobbying power. There's not many of us. We've had a couple meetings here in town. There's maybe 15 of us at the most. And if you look across the state, there's just not many of us. So we don't really have much power or leverage. So we think maybe as a result of that, we're just getting pushed to the side. So we're pretty far down the list. I mean, I think even the current 4-tier color-coded tier system, we have to serve food even in the final tier. And so there's no relief in sight for us. We're pretty active locally, and we try to be with the county and the state, but we're almost resigned to the fact that it's going to be a long time before we're allowed to operate like we used to, even though we do feel that we're operating as safely as a restaurant.
Are you seeing with Venus and Furs, with the food being integrated into the situation, is that easier to manage?
Yes, quite a bit easier. And the same thing with Shaker Mill and Cubaneo, because of the relationship that was already historically there. The real problem for us, and I imagine other bar owners in town that don't typically serve food would echo this sentiment, it's just we're not set up for it. Not our any of our systems, none of our logistics, none of our physical equipment or our flow. And as a result, we're paying a lot of money for things that we wouldn't normally have to do. And we're losing money at all of our venues serving food.
And that's because you had to integrate it into your point of sale system, and you have to deal with plates now and stuff like that?
Yeah, exactly. And we're eating, you know, credit card processing fees, comps and waste, other things like that. Again, not disparaging the folks we're working with. They're doing an incredible job. It's no one's fault, but the restrictions that we're doing it this way.
Right. And so what's coming, if we can get, if Santa Barbara can get into, we're in the purple, we've been in the purple tier, stuck there for a while. Looks like we're popping into red. If we can get into red and stay there, what does that mean for your guys' businesses?
After you, Drew.
I mean, you know, until we can be confident that there's such a low risk of transmission, we're not interested in bringing anybody inside. The way we are doing service right now with our window, and you know, we're giving people a hand sanitizer pumper mason jar with a number on it. Like, we're really trying to get into the flow and make it a comfortable service and get just better at the service we're providing right now while there is COVID in the wild. So, I mean, I don't think our service is going to change necessarily. I mean, we basically opened in late May with the service that I think we're going to have until things really do get back to normal, which the looks like. I mean, hope we're not having the Zoom conversation next year in December,
Yeah.
but you know, we're prepared to keep on doing what we're doing because it is working. And one of the ways we've adapted and kind of kept our service skills sharp are like those dinners. Like I was explaining, the power went out during the last night's French dinner, but we're doing these ticketed Wednesday night events where it's a prefix multi-course meal that's fully vegan and really, you know, it's partly for us to be creative and also keep our tableside skills sharp, and then also have you know, a new way of serving guests that they're a little bit more used to with us. So that's sort of the way we're doing it internally. But I don't think in terms of as the county reopens, I've got no rush to have people back in the restaurant. And I think what's working for us right now is going to keep working at least until it starts raining.
It starts raining, right? And you guys, you're actually the first place I went once things opened. You were my first stop, and you had a few tables on the sidewalk. Is that the same setup?
So now we have we've got a 60-foot wide, 12-foot deep grass rollout. So we did a really nice turf yard, basically right on the sidewalk or on State Street, with 10 big queen palms in wine barrels, and all of our furniture is out there, nicely spaced.
That's probably bigger than your indoor space.
I mean, you know, what I'm really hoping for and what I think is going to make a lot of the other business owners as well as us on State Street whole again is, you know, having this growth onto State Street and making it's made an amazing experience for everybody. And it's so cool being able to be at Good Line, being out in the middle of the road too. It's one of those things where it's a gift to the community and to all the business owners, and we're just hoping that we can work with the city to continue doing it, because I know a lot of us are investing a lot in it, and it's been both a physical and a financial adjustment, and we're invested in it. I think it's something that everybody is loving to a person. So it's been cool to really make it beautiful out there and make it ours, and I think it's
really
being well received.
Space out there. So congratulations on what you're doing. It feels like a park. It's really quite lovely.
I recommend you come kick off your shoes and
Brandon, actually quickly describe what you've done at each place. I mean, is it fairly simple? You've pushed into the street like everyone else, or
different? So we have 4 venues now, which we're pretty excited about. But every one of ours has a different kind of set of stipulations. I wouldn't say rules, because for the most part, the city has been consistent. And by the way, the city and city staff have been awesome pretty much the entire time through COVID. And for my money, have been moving quickly to help us in every kind of way. I don't know if I could say the same thing about the state, but I could say the city, I feel like the city's been doing a fantastic job. And we're appreciative. But yeah, so each of our venues has a slightly different story depending on where they're located and the nature of our neighbors. So some places we felt comfortable putting in a little bit more money and building something a little bit more stable. And some places we're still a little reticent. The last thing we can afford to do is put out too much money and have either our opportunity to serve in this fashion revoked, or some other kind of small twists of fate come hit us. And so 2 of our venues, we have built a parklet outside that we really like. 2 of our venues, we've got borders and outdoor seating, but we're not yet comfortable enough to spend any significant money out there until we get a little bit more clarity on it.
Right. And so I gather with the red tier, if we can stay there, the city could then come up with some rules about opening inside, right? And would you think of doing that, Brandon? Or
I would, yeah. I mean, every little bit counts. It's been a tough year for us in hospitality. We wouldn't probably turn on the air conditioning. Certainly not at this point. We keep the doors open like we do anyway. And we'd roll with it. We feel comfortable doing it, but I respect and understand if some folks don't.
Right. And how are your employees in both of your situations? Are they pretty stoked to be working and having a job right now, or is there concerns for their own safety, or how do you guys deal with that part of the equation?
Well, speaking for my team, firstly, they've done, in my opinion, an all-star job since the beginning of this, and particularly the first 2 or 3 months when we've been, like Drew, getting changes to our orders and our having to modify operations, sometimes on an hourly basis. it was stressful for everybody, stressful for my wife and I, but really stressful for our team. And they rolled with it, and they did a fantastic job. I can't speak for them entirely, but I think they're comfortable. We have been lucky that we've had not a single case traced to our businesses, either on the guest side or the staff side. We hope that continues. Sometimes it's a bit of luck sprinkled in there with doing the right thing, and I think we have certainly had some luck. Speaking for them, if I can, they're here, they're working with us. I think they're stoked, and I think they feel safe, which is important for us.
And with, I was just editing the article on you guys that's on our website now and will be in print hopefully next week. You now employ over 40 people in town, which makes you kind of a big downtown employer.
Oh, that's crazy. Honestly, it just feels good to be able to provide those jobs. Also, we have so much fun and so creative for us, and we do believe that this is a path for, when I was coming up as a bartender a long time ago, these options didn't exist for us. We were, working in kind of rotten dive bars, and this as a career was never presented to us. So for us to be a part of facilitating those kind of careers is incredibly exciting.
You haven't done that theme yet, the rotten dive bar. I'll wait for that. That'll be good.
It's coming. I like a good rotten dive bar.
All bottom shot.
Drew, how are your employees feel pretty confident and are enjoying themselves having a job?
Yeah, so to echo Brandon, we're so fortunate we haven't had any spread associated with the restaurant. We haven't had anybody in-house, anybody who basically the rule is, if you think you've been exposed, you're not coming to work until you get a test back negative. So we've been really serious and deliberate about it all, and it's really the only way that any of us feel comfortable coming to work. And so we wanted to make that the baseline, just safety first. And it's been, it's like you said, Brandon, it's like sometimes it's been adapting hour to hour, and okay, Gavin Newsom just got on. What if? I guess we're going to fast forward through that and try and catch any info we can. But there's, at least there's been a little bit of a thrill day to day. Sometimes you get a little, little adrenaline punch, and it's not so bad. But it really has been a all hands on board operation here. I've been leaning on our staff a ton, and from the looks of things, like, we're all happy to be here. We're all happy to be involved. And we've also been cognizant that people think emotionally, like, this has been super challenging, and we've all needed to take our time and our space too. And we've made room for everybody to do that. And it has been a really empathetic time for all of us, and a lot of just being conscious of each other's needs and insecurities and securities and emotions, and we've gotten this far, and I think everybody is feeling good.
It's been interesting to see, even just amongst close friends, like people's sensibilities when it comes to, how close they're ready to get or not get, or how long they're going to wear their mask or not wear their mask. It's been an interesting time just for everybody, I think, exploring that. And Drew, you still function as a bottle shop too, right? So people can buy bottles to go from you.
Exactly. So we've got our full inventories online for local delivery. I do free delivery after 5:30 every day, and have been doing that almost every day since the middle of March.
Is that still busy?
Yeah, the Pleasure Prius is it's getting around. But we're actually switching our website over to an entirely new site this week. So we'll be even more focused on e-commerce and really trying to bring the restaurant home. We're going to be expanding sort of weekly meal specials. We bought a deep freeze chest freezer so we can start doing, meals that are really for families to be delivered or picked up here, and feed a family of 4, and with all Santa Barbara food. So we're trying to build out the whole thing, and it's been going well.
And Brandon, one of the hot things, one of the first articles I wrote that was like a positive article way back in March was that to-go cocktails were legal. They're still legal, right? It's still happening, yeah?
That's awesome. I hope that's, like what Drew said earlier, in addition to State Street hopefully remaining pedestrianized forever, because I love it. This is something else I'd love to see in the future permanently. This is awesome. And we haven't seen, I don't think we've seen any issues with it. And yeah, it's been great. We did really well in the beginning doing to-go cocktails when everything was closed, and now we're doing them more like a la minute. When during service, someone can order a bottle to go and they take it home. But it's fun, and I think once we get some firm confirmation from whomever, ABC or the county or the state, that this is permanent, we're gonna really go for it. We just, again, hesitate to spend too much money on this because as we've seen, these things are taken away pretty quickly with a tweet or less sometimes, and we want to make sure before we spend what we have to spend to do it with integrity, full integrity. We want to get some.
And you're talking about like packaging and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Where do you find mason jars? They are impossible.
Yeah. I'll text you afterwards.
Got a hookup? Nice.
Yeah.
Brandon, you mentioned that quietly that the state is not giving as much guidance as maybe as you would like. So what is kind of on your wish list? Like what could anybody do to give you a little more clarity right now?
Yeah, well, firstly, I don't envy the state. They have a tough job, and their priority is keeping people safe, and I understand that. And frankly, it's our priority too. And it's more important than making money, and it's more important when we're not making money. It's more important than keeping our jobs. It's the most important thing. So I acknowledge that fully. Selfishly, we want to get back to a point where we're making some money. What we really want to see is some consistency with some of the rules. For example, I think currently wineries are able to be open without food service, but we have to serve food. So I just don't understand the rationale there. But I guess if we're being forced to be closed, or being forced to have restrictions, we'd like to see something to help us out in some way. I don't know if that's in the form of license and permit fees and so on being waived, or if that's some sort of relief on sales tax. I'm not sure how that takes. Rent relief that supports both the property owners and the tenants. I'm not sure if there's any of that's possible, but if we're getting hammered with restrictions and mandated closures, we'd like to see some help too.
Is there any coalition of cocktail bar owners that's happening on a state level that's starting to lobby? Has this forced that or not at all?
We don't have enough money, Matt. There's not enough of us. We're not like big brewing. We certainly don't have the money of the wine, whatever organizations represent the winery's interests. We don't have that money or that level of organization.
You got 4 places now. You're big cocktail.
Yeah.
Big Daddy.
Yeah. Well, thanks for saying that. I don't know if we. Yeah. Well, hopefully, people think. I've had a lot of time reflecting this time on the role of a bar, not just our bars, but just bars in society. And I think they're essential. I know it sounds silly. We're just kicking back, some cocktails and wine in these venues, but they exist as third places that I think that are essential for the health and well-being from everything in the community, from our culture to our fiscal health to our just ability to talk politics in a bar. I think is great and essential for a healthy community.
Right, and honestly, now there's so many low alcohol, even non-alcoholic cocktails that are out there. It's actually it's even hitting on that front. Like it's for everybody. It's not just for people looking for a buzz or whatever. So.
Yeah, absolutely. You can nurse a vermouth for a few hours and chit chat. It's lovely.
Yeah, but buy some food.
Yeah.
So and Drew, what do you? Anything particular that you could look for to help? Or it seems like you guys have kind of found a groove.
Fortunately, we haven't had the same sort of like ups and downs and like literally just turning the switch on and off that you guys have had, Brandon. But for us, we just really need help from the community just to come out and check out restaurants and swing by and just look at the menu, see if there's anything you want to hang out on the patio and chill with. We are bringing in so much new inventory and so much diversity right now, just because, like you were saying, people are grabbing stuff on the menu and they're tasting something by the glass menu, and then they're just taking a bottle home and or maybe a case, and just it's been a really interesting shift in consumer tendencies towards thinking about, okay, we're going to come out for maybe instead of like a whole night on the town, we'll go see our favorite place, and then we'll go home and hang out with more and more bubble. And so in that regard, there's a lot of that support that we've been getting, and that's been wonderful. But in terms of what the city could do, though, I really think that seeing all this investment and all this really intelligently built out and a well-adapted State Street frontage and all the side streets that are having these parklets. Like, I would love to see the city start to really get serious about, pulling up some of the road markers and talking about, okay, how are we going to do the bike lanes, or are we going to have designated like slow and fast zones? Because more than a few times I've had to break up almost fights between the wheelie kids and some old guy who doesn't like them. And it's really kind of getting to a point on some busy weekends where it's, dangerous for COVID or just for a punch getting thrown. So, yeah, I think the best thing that restaurants, especially, sort of more where wine gardens, like a lot of coming and going, I'd love to see more red shirts on the street with hosts in town really helping with, there's a lot of difficult vagrant population, especially in our 2 blocks, get a lot of people kind of getting uncomfortably involved with guests. And we just like to see some more support in terms of just regular normalizing the space and really showing that the city is committed as much as all these businesses who really invested more than they would have liked to in creating these spaces just to survive.
And then what do you guys, we'll wrap this up here pretty soon, but looking into the near future, winter does happen sometimes here. If it does start raining, it does start getting cold, or when that happens, you guys have some things up your sleeves for managing that, or are you just going to kind of take it on the chin like we've had to do so much this year?
Well,
in general,
it's a good question. I'm sure it's given Drew as much anxiety as it's given us, but yeah, we need some direction. We need some direction. What's going to be allowed? What's not? We want to do it safely, and we don't want to throw X amount of thousands of dollars to something that might not be appropriate or may be harmful to people's health. So we need the city to tell us what to do, and we'll do it. We need to know pretty soon, though.
Yeah,
I know those guidelines are being put together now. They're in the works, and I think they're scrambling to get that situated. But I know that it's it's such an important thing as we are working on all these details.
Yeah,
I've seen some tents, and I'm like, I don't know, is that safer than being inside? I'm not sure, so it's kind of we do need guidance,
But and I started to jump in there again, but it just, I think people are going to be out this winter. I think people are going to be. I'm going to be out in a park with a space heater, or not space heater, but outdoor heater. I'm okay with it. It's just a funky year. Let's do it. Let's have a cocktail or a glass of wine, some food outside.
I only get to wear those
friend who's what's that?
I say finally get to wear those clothes we never get to wear.
I know.
Exactly. Call up your friend who works at Patagonia. They've always got discount codes.
Oh yeah.
Puffy jackets are so in.
Cool. Well, I don't think we had any questions from the crowd. Did we, Robin? You see anything?
No, we didn't. No.
Okay, great. Do you have anything more to say, Robin, or should we wrap this up?
Let's wrap it up, but can I introduce what we're doing next week?
Yeah, please do.
Excellent. So next Thursday, so every Thursday we have these great interviews, and the next one is on retail wisdom. So we're going to be, I'll be hosting the next one with Ravi Shahal, and let's see, Ashley Hayes from Asher Market, Annalise Nascente from the e-bikery, and we're going to talk about retail wisdom. So lots happening in that world as well. And so join us each Thursday at 3. And thank you so much, gentlemen, for all your contributing to downtown, allowing us to have a little bit of social space to connect and just process this wild time that we're in. Celebrating you guys and all your contributing to downtown. So thank you. And thank you, Matt.
Yeah, my pleasure. Nice to see you guys. And
thanks so much. You too.
I'm going to come down and try out your new spot, Brandon, one of these days pretty soon. And I'll swing by satellite too.
Can't wait. We'll see you guys soon.
All right. See you. Take care.
Thank you guys.
Bye.
Bye.